Hey, you're listening to Our Children, Our Future. I'm your host, Drake Pearson, and this is our very first episode. This podcast is for parents who care about the future of their children and the future of the world that they'll live in. It's also for aspiring parents as well. If you're an aspiring parent, we're glad to have you here. Or if you're just plain someone who cares about the future of humanity and you want to do your part to make sure that it is the very best that it can possibly be, we're glad you're here. Let's get right into it. I'm going to be telling you about some things that you need to be aware of for the future of your children. If you want them to have the best life, if you want to make sure that you are putting them in the best position to be prepared for the future world of tomorrow, here's what you need to know. Number one, the education system is flawed. You need to understand that it is so flawed that the New York Times recently put out an article that said that two-thirds of children across the nation cannot read at grade level, and two-thirds of children across the nation cannot do math at grade level. What that means is, if I could break that down for you, can you imagine going to a restaurant three times, and two of those three times they get your order completely wrong, not even close to what you ordered, right? But it gets even worse than that, because as these students get older, it actually gets worse for them. The amount of children who can read at grade level goes down. The amount of children who can do math at grade level goes down. So that would be like you're going to the same restaurant. They already messed up your order two out of the three times, but you keep going because you're thinking, if I become a regular and I keep ordering the same thing, just the same thing, they should get my order right. But they actually get worse at getting your order. I think if I were going to that restaurant, and maybe you might be, a little bit more optimistic, but if I were going to that restaurant, I would not be going there anymore. After the second time they got my order wrong, I'd be like, hey, listen, this is just not working out for me. I'm going to go somewhere where they actually care, right? And this is what you need to be aware of. And I don't blame the teachers. But the school system itself, the way that model is, it just does not work for students. It doesn't work for someone who's actually interested in being educated. And that's what you need to know. Here's the other thing. The school system, the way that model works, is it's set to make you be eligible for employment. Another way to say that is it's created to help you to become an employee, right? However you want to look at that, good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter, because in the future, very near future, the job market is changing drastically. And this brings us to point number two, which is technology. Technology being AI, automation, all of that, and how it's shaping the future is drastic. Listen, if you thought the iPhone was cool and that changed things, we are about to enter into a whole new world with what AI is doing and what automation and the robots that we're going to put AI in and all of that stuff, what all that is going to do to how we interact with one another, but also how we make money in this economy, how job markets work, all of that. They're saying basically half of entry level jobs will be automated away within the next 2 years or so. Now, you may think that is very optimistic and that is happening too quickly. You may think that number might be too big, maybe inflated a little bit. Regardless of what you think, we are headed in that direction. Even if it takes a little bit longer than 2 years, we are headed in that direction. In fact, I just saw a video of a Tesla robot folding clothes. That's right, folding clothes. Dads, moms, especially moms, you do not have to worry about laundry anymore. You can just order yourself a Tesla bot and it will fold all the clothes for you. No, the serious thing about this is, look at that. It's going to be replacing not just moms folding clothes. The application for this is actually in retail stores, obviously, right? Malls, people who are working at Macy's or Aeropostale or whatever those stores are, where people are working in the back. Walmart, folding clothes, right? And then they've got to put them on the shelves. Well, now you can have a robot doing that, which means the cost of that labor is going to drop dramatically, and there's going to be less available positions for entry level jobs. Now, the statistic here is $800 million jobs will be lost, a net loss. So that means there's going to be actually more than that loss, but they're expecting that some jobs will be created by AI and automation, but they're expecting 800 million jobs will be lost in the world economy. Now, just so you know, I looked up how many people in America are working age. Not how many people are working, that number is less, but how many people in America are working age. And that is between 15 years old and 64 years old. Do you know how many people? I'll tell you. It's about 200 million people in America are working age. And they're saying 800 million jobs will be lost. Now, if you do the math on that, that's like you can't work four times over. If you live in America, you're not allowed to work for four times over. That's like, when those mobsters would get these like life sentences, that would be like, you've got three life sentences. That's like, if that guy dies, he comes back to life, he's still got to serve another life sentence. If he dies again, he comes back to life, he's still got to serve another life sentence. That's what that's like. 800 million jobs will be lost in this world economy. Now, obviously, that's not going to be all Americans losing their jobs or all this one country or that country, but it is something to be aware of. That means things are going to change dramatically for the next generation. And so we need to prepare them for that, because the jobs that we know exist right now aren't going to exist in the same way. A lot of those will be gone, and we don't know what's coming up. So that brings us to point number 3, which is, if you're focused on just memorizing facts or learning one set of skills, there's one skill that you're going to really need above all others, and that is the skill to adapt, right? And point number 3 is this: leadership. Being able to lead yourself, being able to look around in your environment, how you are leading your children right now is very important. Because if you're leading them to just obey you, that's a mistake. And here's why: because they're learning to just obey an authority. They're learning to sit and wait for somebody to tell them what to do, and then they will listen to that, and then they will execute. But in this changing environment, that means they're not looking at the environment going, there's a need here, there's a need there. I can make myself useful in this way. I can make myself valuable in that way. They're not doing that. Instead, they're waiting for a teacher perhaps to tell them, hey, you need to do this. Oh, here's what you need to learn next. Instead of having an interest, having a joy of learning. If a child does not have joy for learning, a love for learning, they're in serious trouble, because we are entering into a zone where we are going to have to learn new things over and over and over and over and over again, because we're going to have to be very adaptable, because things are going to change over and over and over and over again. I was reading a book that was called The War on Normal People. I read this book a while ago, and I was also watching an interview recently where the people talking about automation and AI, here's what they're saying: people are going to need to be retrained into different positions, because these positions that we're in right now in the global economy, they don't work. They're not going to exist anymore. But the problem is, it is very hard to retrain someone from one position or one job into another, because most people are not adaptable. Because most people, the way that you go to school, you learn some rigid rules. You learn that you're not good at adapting. You can make mistakes, but if you make mistakes, you get punished for it in school, right? And so, am I saying, take your kid out of school or don't put your kid in school? I'm not exactly saying that. If, that's the situation that you're in right now and that's what's working for you, then perhaps you just need to see another way of being able to adapt with your children. And if you'd like to know more about that, stay tuned. But here's the deal: if you've grown up in a way, and here's why leadership is so important in this context. If you've grown up in a way where your grandparents were very authoritarian, right? They said, do this or act in this way, and they did that to your parents, and then your parents did the same cycle, where, or you have the other way around, where grandparents are very strict, then parents become very lax, and then parents growing up in the lax environment go, well, I didn't get to learn all this stuff, and I wish somebody would have pushed me to do these things, and they become strict. And then their kids grow up and they say, I hated being, under pressure all the time, I want to be more relaxed. And it just kind of flip flops back. The cycle repeats over and over and over again. That's not going to work. That's not going to be very supportive for a child growing up today. You have to break that cycle. And if you're wondering, how do I break that cycle? Good news for you. I have a microbook for you that you can get for free. And if you just go to unlocked.fl.com/microbook, and I'll spell that out for you. Unlock, like you're unlocking a door, but in past tense, ed, right? FL, like Florida.com/microbook. And you can download a free microbook that's got tons of stories in there for you, but also some key concepts for you to actually start thinking in different ways to break the cycle that's going on in your family, whether that is with discipline or emotionally or with intelligence or with how you perceive being prepared for the world. This is going to support you to break that cycle. And in that microbook, as you complete the book, there is a link in there for you if you want to connect further with me. All right. So get that book, break the cycle, and let's prepare our children for this future year, right? These future years. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for the next ones. Bye.